Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Ally of Justice Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for Post Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1. I gotta be honest, the Ally of Justice deck is probably the worst Yu-Gi-Oh! Archetype in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I wouldn't even call this an archetype. It's mostly just a bunch of cards grouped together with the same name that do a bunch of different card effects. They have a bunch of different synchros, and they haven't gotten any support in, I think years. It's been years since my last deck profile update for this deck, but with the release of the Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1 and a lot of these cards reprinted, people seeing these cards, I at least wanted to attempt a deck profile with all of these, with their playstyle not even having a specific playstyle. So I basically had to create one with what we had available for the Ally of Justice monsters, which their main focus is just shutting down light attribute monster effects. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and we'll start off with the main deck for the Ally of Justice monsters. Our first playsets, which the only playsets we're running for the Ally of Justice monsters, are ones that are actually pretty viable in good monsters overall. We're running 3 Ally of Justice Quarantine. This card has 1700 attack, and its only card effect is neither player can special summon light monsters. Now, it may seem pretty okay, and it pretty much is, but shutting down light monsters special summons definitely does shut down at least a chunk of what your opponent may be able to special summon. Maybe they don't have all light monsters in their main deck, but there's a good chance that with their extra deck, they have a couple light monsters that they just needed for that one specific play. And then if you can at least stop those plays, then you have a spot for Ally of Justice Quarantine in your own deck. We don't run really any light monsters in the main deck for this own play, and we only have a couple in the extra deck, which I'll justify when I get to them. But Quarantine still helps. Like I said, shutting down those light monsters is a big play altogether. And the same goes for Ally of Justice Cycle Reader. Quick effect, you can discard this card to the graveyard, then target up to 2 light monsters in your opponent's graveyard and banish those targets. Once again, just taking away resources. You can at least rely on Quarantine on the field to be able to stop them from special summoning those light monsters. And if they have any in the graveyard that they want to use as resources, whether it be to special summon out a monster by banishing them, you can at least take care of them very, very quickly with the quick effect of Cycle Reader, banish them before your opponent can even have a chance to use them. For some of the lower numbers for the Ally of Justice monsters, I also run 2 Ally of Justice Nullifier, a 1600 attack point monster. If it battles a light monster after damage calculation, negate the effects of that monster. It's okay, just another level 4 monster to utilize in the deck with the other ones that we run, and just an added option for a machine monster and level 4 to use for some other extra deck plays. I also, for some of the one-ofs, run 1 Ally of Justice Enemy Catcher, 1 Cosmic Gateway, and 1 Thunder Armor. These are all high-level monsters that either require 1 or 2 tributes to summon out. Aside from Cosmic Gateway, if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters, including a light monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. And all it is a special summon monster. That's why I'm still running just 1 of it, because if they don't have that light monster, then it's just a monster you have to tribute 2 monsters to get out on the field, and then it has no other effect. Enemy Catcher, when this card is normal summoned, you can target 1 face-down defense position monster your opponent controls and take control of that target until the end phase, which then you can flip up and use for an extra deck summon. And Ally of Justice Thunder Armor cannot be special summoned, and if your Ally of Justice monster attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. They're all okay monster effects, and they all just come down to if you can utilize them in the proper game aspect. That's why they're one-ofs, but there are some other cards in the deck that can at least help to get them out onto the field a little faster. The other one-of that's not really a big Ally of Justice monster is Ally of Justice Unlimiter. If you can get one of these high attack point monsters on the field at the same time with Unlimiter, you can at least then tribute Unlimiter to target an Ally of Justice monster you control, and its attack becomes double its original attack to the end of the turn, which, if you hit your opponent with your Thunder Armor for piercing battle damage, 54 is pretty noticeable in damage to swing at a defense position monster, which there are other cards that we also run in this deck to at least get those monsters into defense position so you can hit them with your Thunder Armor. And I also run 3 Ally Mine. Now, this is a level 5 normal monster, so it can be easily searched out with other cards we're running in the deck, like Summoner Art. And also, being a level 5 tuner, it can be adjusted to go into some of the bigger synchro monsters that we run in the deck, along with some of the other cards we run in the deck to adjust the levels of some of the monsters played. for some of the more generic monsters that definitely do help just to assist with the plays that I'm trying to make with the Ally of Justice monsters, I run 3 Goblinberg. Now, the reason I didn't run the gadget monsters is obviously because they only work on level 4 or lower monsters, so it wouldn't really do much for Cycle Reader. With Goblinberg, when it's normal summon, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your hand, then change this card to defense position. It gives you a rank 4 play with a good number of the different Ally of Justice monsters we run in the deck, or even a Link summon, and all it does is switch Goblinberg to defense position, and it's not restricted with your synchro plays. You can potentially use Goblinberg for a synchro summon if need be. For more special summoning for another machine type monster, I run 3 Machina Cannon. A rank 8 play was always a possibility for me also. If you special summon Cosmic Gateway out onto the field, you can then discard another machine monster from your hand to special summon Machina Cannon on the field, and overlay the 2 into a rank 8 play, being another machine monster, which is Dingirsu, the Orcus of the Evening Star. It's once again just a deck that you want to build around using those resources to make and summon out other monsters. That is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. The high-level monsters can definitely be dealt with by using Star Blast. You pay any number of life points in multiples of 500, reduce the level of one monster you control, or that is in your hand by 1 for each level by 500 until you pay it until the end phase. So this can just be used to normal summon out that monster. Now bear in mind the level will be different, so that rank 8 play won't be able to work, sadly, if you just summon it out, since its level will be different until the end of the turn. But those adjusted levels can help for some specific synchro plays we may try to go to in the deck, or even just adjusting those levels for a specific extra deck play, especially with Ally Mind as a level 5 in your hand. If you lower its level, you can at least summon it out onto the field, making it an 1800 attack point monster. With the good majority of the monsters in the main deck also being Dark Attribute, I am running 3 Allure of Darkness as just an added draw engine to get to some more vital spells and monsters that we're running in the deck, aside from some of the multiples of the Ally of Justice monsters that we may not want to see. And I also run 2 Mausoleum of the Emperor and 1 Terraforming. The Terraforming is just so I can draw into it easier, and only having 2 of it means that I won't have multiples, because once you set up 1 Mausoleum of the Emperor on the field, you really don't need to see other ones in your hand. Both players can normal summon or set monsters without tributing by paying 1000 life points times the number of monsters needed for the tribute summon. A quicker way to keep the level of the Ally of Justice monster you have in your hand and summon it out to the field. Thunder Armor being my favorite play for this, so you at least have the 2700 attack point monster, which you can make use of with the other play, which is Ally of Justice Unlimiter, doubling the attack of Thunder Armor. I also run the 2 Summoner Arts for searching out the Ally Mind. I thought of running the option as well with the Ancient Rules spell to special summon. If you wanted to run Ancient Rules, you can always reduce the number of Machina Cannon and Goblinberg to 2 of each, and add in 2 additional Ancient Rules in the deck to then special summon out the Ally Mind to the field. And I also run the 2 Book of the Moon. Now this card is in here for flipping my opponent's monster face down and then making use of the effects of Thunder Armor, being able to swing into a face down monster, because if my opponent sees this, they're not going to summon a monster face down, or Enemy Catcher to then summon out this card after I flip my opponent's monster face down. So regardless of the monster, as long as it's not a Link monster, I'll be able to take it with Ally of Justice Enemy Catcher. And for some of the other one-ofs, I run 1 Instant Fusion. This is for a level 5 fusion target in the extra deck to go for one of our other extra deck plays, which I'll get to. The 1 Pot of Desires, you're definitely going to go through your hand a lot, so an additional draw power, and there's really not anything in this deck that if it gets banished, it will ruin any of my plays. Maybe if I potentially hit all the high-level Ally of Justice monsters, but even then, it's not the end of the world. And I also run 1 Monster Reborn to finish off the lineup, just if I can even discard an Ally of Justice monster to the graveyard with cards like Machina Cannon, I can at least summon it back on the field a lot more easily than if I were to tribute it or use cards like Mausoleum of the Emperor or Star Blast. And then for the traps, the only trap I run in the deck, I don't justify running Infinite Impermanence in this deck. It just seems like an insult to the hand traps for Ally of Justice. But 3 Floodgate Trap Hole. Same premise with Book of Moon, flipping the monster face down so I can either hit it for piercing damage with Ally of Justice Thunder Armor, or gaining control of it with Enemy Catcher. And that is it For the main deck, when I move on to the extra deck, you're really not going to go into the synchros as often as you do with some of the other cards in the extra deck, but I run one of each of the Ally of Justice monsters. Light Gazer, I didn't add it in. If you wanted to take out Field Marshal, you can always add in Light Gazer. I don't believe it was reprinted in the Hidden Arsenal set. We're just going with the ones that are the easiest ones to get from the Hidden Arsenal set. Having a bunch of different levels will be the most difficult part, just matching up monsters to make it. You need 2 or more non-tuners for both your Decisive Armor and Field Marshal, so adjusting the levels with Star Blast will probably be your easiest way to at least get out those monsters. And the same goes with Catastor, with the only monsters needed for the summon properly in the deck are Cycle Reader and then your Unlimiter, being a level 2 non-tuner and a level 3 tuner. For some of the other synchro monsters, I also run 1 Beals and 1 Borreload Savage Dragon. We do run a good number of Link monsters, so you can make full use of the Borreload Savage Dragon in the deck, same with Beals, as a more protective synchro monster. For the Link monsters, I run 1 Barricade Board Blocker. If you lose your Mausoleum of the Emperor, you can definitely be behind on a lot of your plays you want to go for, so at least you can recycle it from the graveyard with Barricade Board Blocker. 1 Nightmare Cerberus and 2 Wee Witch's Apprentice for the rest of the Link monsters, a way to power up your Dark monsters. If you can double the attack of Destroyer and have Wee Witch's Apprentice on the field, you can at least hit for some even more damage against your opponent with this card. And for the Xyz monsters, once again with Goblinberg being a level 4, if you can get out the level 4 plays, 1 Dark Rebellion and 1 Baguska, along with the Dingirsu for the rank 8 plays with Machina Cannon. And the only light monster I run in the deck are the Cyber Dragon Infinity and the 1 Cyber Dragon Nova, which I use with the instant fusion target, pair Psychroid. Now, once again, if you have Quarantine on your field, you won't be able to special summon out the Cyber Dragon Infinity or Nova, so remember that. This really only comes down to the play when I have Ally Mind on my field and I potentially get another Ally Mind out on the field, and then I can overlay the 2 machine monsters into Cyber Dragon Nova and then into Infinity. This is probably the best use of Ally Mind in the entire deck. Or if you just get the 1 on the field and then you summon out the Parapsychroid with instant fusion, you then have the play with Nova into your Cyber Dragon Infinity. And then as for some of the go-to plays, this is a very easy deck to use. It's a lot of times just tributing out monsters and then summoning and making use of attacking into those face-down monsters. But the big part also comes down to limiting your opponent's light attribute monsters. So if you go up against an all-light attribute deck, that's where the deck will definitely shine the most. But a lot of it just comes down to hoping to get lucky with what you paired up against. Like I said, it's a deck that if it ever sees more support, it'll probably be a whole new wave that doesn't even use any of the old monsters. And now that I made a deck profile for it, we'll probably see those monsters in the future. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.